Master. She's also a keynote speaker and digital transformation accelerator. Dr. Yunis Sari is the co-founder of UX Indonesia, the first insight-driven UX research, training, and consulting company based in Indonesia since 2002, and co-founder of Customer Experience Insight Pty Limited, Australia. With more than 20 years of experience in academics and industries, she has helped many organizations accelerate their digital transformation and pioneer innovative UX projects that affect lives and improve businesses' bottom line in the USA, Europe, Australia, and Asia. Her works have brought her to the next level as the first Asian female Google developer expert in product design and strategy, and the first Asian female Google certified design sprint master. She currently serves as the Google mentor for Google startups and many mentors for many private and government initiative accelerators. Without further ado, we'd like to invite Dr. Yunis Sari to take over the platform. Dr. Yunis, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Zachary. Good morning, everyone, for the opportunity to come today and then meet all of you and discuss about the design thinking for educators. So, so I think Dr. Zachary has talked a little bit about myself. So I will not repeat again. So I'll just go straight to the core then. And I just want to share my slide. So I'm going to pass this one. You know me and accept that my hobby, what I'm doing. And so this is like a kind of like my day-to-day activities, like helping a lot of companies and organizations. Not only the company, but also universities, and also including teachers and educators, teacher educator, and so on. So like for the last couple of years, I'm really looking at how design thinking that we initially know to be used by a lot of startups and a lot of company, how it can be used in the education. I know there have been a lot of trials and research have been done, but I think what drives me to know more about, to investigate more, is because during COVID, in Indonesia especially, as well as in Australia, a lot of parents, a lot of teachers, a lot of students, they've been very stressful with the way they have to tackle the issue of learning or studying from home. My situation, it was a bit better because I'm in Perth, Western Australia, where we hardly have any studying from home, probably only like a couple of weeks, and that's it. Most of the time students were working normally, but in other states, as you know, as well as in Indonesia, this has become such a big issue. Now after like a couple of years that we teachers after struggling to find out how to innovate to like a better way of teaching and learning. Now most of them are coming back to school, and I believe that is your experience as well, with the university, with the students, university students, and also the school students as well. This situation actually have changed a lot of the way we are relating to each other. We are communicating, we are responding to problems, and how actually we use the technology as well. But then the question is with a new change, right now we are on a post-pandemic situation. Have we been able to come to the situation where we can somehow we can relax and be innovative in what we are doing? We're not just addressing the problems in a very stressed situation, but we can actually thinking a better way to solve this problem. When we talk about design thinking, we always start with a problem. So basically, as a design thinker, your main job is a problem solver, right? And the problem that you have to solve is not just a normal problem. I got a tummy ache, I don't understand. But this is a problem that cannot be solved easily when we are facing it. For example, in our project with hundreds of teachers in Indonesia, in the border of Indonesia and Malaysia, for example, we have a very complex problem where teachers have to send the students home. They cannot come to school, and teachers were not ready because each of the students, they live in a really remote area, which is very difficult to reach out. And then when we talk about technology, right? Okay, let's just use Zoom. I mean, hardly anyone have a good connection to the Zoom, or maybe even a receiver for your mobile phone. It is very bad. So they have to go to a higher place, or they got to go to next to the sea in order to get the connection to the mobile phone. And for the teachers, in addition to that they have to tackle with those issues, they have to make sure that students keep learning every single day, because that is the basic rights that they need to have, right? But then the problem is when they are at home, nobody looking after them. They can do whatever they want. They make more trouble, and sometimes the parents ask them to do some work. Parents mostly they are not educated. They cannot understand, and feeling that their burden is a more burden that they have to face. So this is a quite complex problem. While the teachers, when they have to find out what is the best way to teach these students, they have to use the technology again. This is a problem. But then the other problem, which is bigger, is how I teach, how I ensure the level of literacy and numeracy is up to the basic standard. We did not have the curriculum that actually can support a lot of these changes. So this is what I would say. This is a very complex problem because it involves a lot of aspect, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people got affected because of that. And if you do this, other party will not be happy. Other party will not be will have another problem that might come up. So
maybe there's some more.
I'll just pass this one, and then that was a video that's basically talking about the wicked problem. But when we talk about design thinking is not a new thing, right? Design thinking, the story is was back in 1969, so it is quite an old way of solving the problem. As described by Dr. Zachary before, we have to teach our children and teach ourselves the enterprising skill, which means that we cannot run away from solving a problem. A lot of time, our education system, especially in Asia, has been criticized that we are spoon-feeding our children too much. And that's actually my own experience as well, where we don't have to think too much. I mean, the teachers will provide everything. The teachers will ask us to fill out form, like a textbook, not workbook, and then that's it. And we got really good marks, we can memorize. So our brain, like my brain, was not trained to think why, asking the question why. So with the design thinking, like we are trying to see a problem, which was somehow a bit scary for a lot of teachers, right? Like I'm going to start with the teachers, because the teachers would say, oh gosh, if I would start with a problem, then there will be a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknown that may happen, because when we started to open up with a problem, then there will be a lot of hypotheses on how to solve it. And I'm not ready. I don't have that experience. I don't have that knowledge how to solve that. And especially if we involve the children, when the children is given opportunity to ask questions, they can be very, very creative, and they can be really open-minded if they are trained to do that. And that caused a lot of teachers, including myself in the past, worried, okay, then I will look that I am not capable of solving this, and the parents will think that I'm not really good teachers or something like that. So that was the situation. And then basically, this is just a brief history of the design thinking, how design thinking has been introduced, and then the ideals stand for, and why I put myself in that timeline, because I'm this is my timeline, right? Like so I have the right to put where I'm like doing this the design thinking, where I started, because the way I look at design thinking, the way I look at how to apply design thinking, it's a bit different. It's a bit unusual from the normal design thinking process. And I actually like introduce the design thinking 2.0, which is quite different, because design thinking is known as the way, a framework to solve the problem. We started with empathize. I'm going back to the design thinking 2.0 as I'm explaining this one. With the D Stanford, we start with empathize, which means that we start with understanding what is the needs of our users, what is the need of our parents, of the school. Then we define the problem, and then we start to come up with a lot of solutions in the ideation process. And then we have to go with the prototype, where we explore a different way to solve this problem, and then testing. Basically, that's the basic. And,
I think Dr. Eunice is experiencing some technical difficulty. I believe she'll be back shortly.
hello.
Yes, Doc, you're back.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So there was a lag just now. Yeah. You can
Yes.
continue.
Oh, okay. So what was the last time? What was the last thing that you hear from me? Just want to make sure.
Basically, you've just gone through the entire process from empathize to you're going through the process of the whole 5 steps.
Oh yes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's not too far then. All right then. So this guy called Chicknap, he actually trying to make things very short. He used the agile method, like trying to do the design thinking in 5 days. Similar method in 5 days. Because when a lot of people, a lot of teachers as well, when they do design thinking, there was no limit of time. And that is a problem because teachers only have a very limited time in the class. And when they try to apply design thinking, how do we do that? Even like the things what Chicknap has been done, it is very difficult to do it in 5 days. So this guy called Chicknap is the author of this the book that I was mentioned before. And yeah, so this is like the design thinking 2.0. And how come this design thinking 2.0 introduced? Because we know that in the design thinking, a lot of the emphasis was mostly on the design, on like empathizing and then trying understanding, creating a prototype, and then trying out testing it. But then in the real world, especially now, we are in the Asia Pacific region where we have a lot of development of the product and services. We cannot just stop in the design. We need to go to make sure that this process of design thinking is followed up during the development process. Then you probably ask how it is related to my work as a teacher, as a lecturer, because we don't develop anything. We are not a factory. We are not a company that we have to develop an app. Yes. How I apply it is you have to have a mindset that, well, yes, you can design, you can plan, right? But the planning has to be different, where you would start with conception, where you try to understand the problem, and then you try to map this problem, map the journey of your users, which can be your students, which can be your school, which can be your university or um, university students, and then you start to ideate. This is like a way you will start with the conception of idea, right? We will go through each of the steps together. And then prototype. We use the word prototype, but it's basically when you ideate, when you come up with a lot of idea, you will come up with a lot of solution. And then you will start with solution will be the best one. And then you will test this solution in your class, in your context, in your research, and then you learn something, you reflect something, right? But then we also have to think that this process cannot stop. So this process of design thinking is usually just this part, which is the design process. We have to think of something bigger. We need to make whatever we learn on the pre-release part, we need to go back and then talk to the teachers, more stakeholders, how we can actually implement this one, maybe across the classes, across the school, with the parents, with the different stakeholders. And then after that's what we call it as a release, right? And then after the release part, then we are going to go to the post-release, where we are going to evaluate whether we are successful or not. And before we can actually make it into a policy, before we can make it into something that is more permanent for people to follow as a guideline or anything like that. So this is basically how I navigate the design thinking, and the last explanation is how I apply for education. So let's move on. When we talk about design thinking, I'm talking about the backward design by Grant Wickens, 1998. So how it can be related. So instead of us giving just doing our own brainstorming, what kind of curriculum that I want to give to, I want to do for my school, for my class, or maybe making, how would I do it? Like I would start with with identifying desired results. We would say learning outcomes, but the way we come up with the learning outcomes is different. We will consult with the relevant stakeholders. So who are the relevant stakeholders? Depending on case by case, then it can be your students, it can be your principal, it can be your teachers, your teacher peers, can be at the university professor, or can be anyone. So basically, we are trying to hear everybody what they say, what they want, what would be the desired result. And especially we are going to focus on the students because they will be the one who will accept whatever we are designing from them. Once we got, okay, for example, student, I want to learn how to do this, for example, to draw or to come up with, to create, like a solution for, say, climate change in our region or something like that. And then it's then you have to think how it is actually related to what we are going to teach them, right? And that's where we will start from our side. We are going to write down what is the learning outcomes we want to achieve from here. I mean, a lot of questions that I always receive, well, we are already given by the government on what would be the learning outcomes and things like, yes, that's great. That is very general, that's very macro. And you really need to think of your class, how that learning outcome, you can specify it, you can customize it for your students, for your classroom, right? And then the second part will be the assessment, right? Determining the acceptable evidence. After you define your learning outcomes, you are going to think about the assessment. What will be the best assessment for those sort of the results that we want to achieve? And this can be a bit tricky because we are kind of used with a certain way of thinking. Okay, well, as long as they fill out all the questions properly, get 100, then that's it, my assessment, multiple choice, or they create an essay, that's it, a essay with this is, then that's it, that's fit the purpose, and tick the box. This is a change of mindset, and this is not easy for everyone. And then after we define the assessment, we are going to do the learning activities, how we break down the desired result and then assessment and put that into a nice, a good learning experience and instruction. So this is the detail of the lesson plans, what you need to do. And I would not say this is easy because, for example, in Indonesia, if any one of you here from Indonesia, there's a new way of approaching the curriculum. And I know that what they are trying, the ministry trying to ask the teachers is to be more creative in a way they deliver the lesson plan, they deliver to have the curriculum and make the assessment. But then the teacher got stuck. A lot of teachers came to me and then they got stuck. I don't know how. I don't know to come up with the learning outcomes, how we can start with the problem. It's not because they are not used to it. They need a lot of practice how to do it. And then we can't really blame anyone because the system has been there for so many years, and that's we are not really used to with this uncertainty like this. So what we can actually do design thinking for. So we can do design thinking for many things. We have talked about curriculum, how we develop the curriculum. But we can also use design thinking in the classroom. For example, how we can actually manage the class, right? So just for example, how do we manage the class? So we have a really a noisy and messy class. This is a real situation where students come and then they're eating like a bubble gum and they shout in the class. They are very impolite to the teachers. This is something that I see. And then how actually we implement design thinking in this kind of situation? We have to start, we have to do to address this problem not only by yourself. You just come saying, okay, we have to do this. I'm going to ban all the bubble gum and everything. You are not going to get a result. You got to think differently, start with the problem, involve the users, which is the students, to think together with you how to solve this, right? We can also do this with the system, the education system, depending on where you are in your career or in your work. This is about changing the education system. It can also be you use design thinking in a process and tool. How we can actually design what kind of tool, what kind of process we have to do to make sure that we can address the problem. We can actually come up with a better solution. We have to use the mobile phone in the class. Do we have to if we have to use a mobile phone in the class, how are we going to use it, and those sort of questions. So, and when we do design thinking, we need to involve not just the students or teacher peers, but also parents as well, headmaster, and then school community. Basically, everyone needs to think together. There are a couple of principles of the design thinking. When you need to do design thinking, the first point is human-centered design. So human is the center of everything what we are doing. So when we talk about human-centered design process, we are talking about we think of human when we design. We think about the technology that we might use. We also think of the business point of view. We cannot run away from the business point of view. A lot of my teachers, they said, okay, I'm going to go to this idea, but I don't get it. At the end of the day, you need some money to make sure that you can run what you need to run, right? And then the next thing is the social culture. If this worked in US, would it work in Singapore? We are not sure. We have to do that. And in order for us to know everything, then we have to do research. We have to test. We have to see all. We have to do research, not just the looking at the relevant literature, but we also have to do research with the users. Will they accept us if we introduce the use of mobile phone, right? And then the next one is the creative and experiment. We need to be open-minded. We need to be able to show that It's okay to be different. It's okay to think of something else that we don't normally do, because um, the idea is not going to come out when you are in a very limited situation, when you are in a stressful situation where you don't know what to do. So it's when we have the pride, for example, oh, I don't want my students know that I don't know, like that's when we started with that kind of thinking, that we won't be able to grow. So it's a growth mindset here. So when we do design thinking, it's like we need to make sure that we have to have the designer mindset. What does it mean by designer mindset? Do we have to do design? Do we have to be able to draw? No, it is not about that. It's just like that's a technical skill. If you have it, then that's good. If you don't have it, the most important is like a design thinking, is like a designer mindset here is about agent of change. You want to make a difference. You want to do it. You want to become a champion. And you have the user-centered perspective. You have the empathy of the people who will be involved in that process, and how what kind of problem that they might face if we implement the solution. Then we also have to be creative and intentional. We cannot just come up with idea, but like when we ask you, like, why do you come up with this idea? Why do you come up with this kind of assessment? I don't know. That's really irresponsible. We really need to know, like, whatever solution we have, it has to be intentional. And in follow up to that is strategic prioritization, because when you idea, then you will come up with so many ideas, right? Especially you as an educator, as a teacher, you are the most creative person on earth, right? Basically, you come up with all sort of ideas. How might we prioritize ideas that can solve the problem the best? So that would be something that you have to think about. Number two is lifelong learning. As a design thinker, or as a people you involved in the design thinking, these are the qualities that you have to have. Number one is the humility, right? Sorry, all of this like a tied in a title called lifelong learning. And lifelong learning is like you always want to learn something new. And in order for you to be able to have the lifelong learning, then you need to have a humility. You need to be able, especially us as a teacher, where there's like sometimes big power distance, we have to be able to say, I'm sorry, I don't know. What do you think? What would be the best way to solve this problem? Right? And that is like you have, I don't know if you experience the same, that my experience when relating with the teacher teachers are very reluctant to say that they do not know. They think, oh, okay, well, I'm ashamed if I say I don't know. I mean, like I say I don't know all the time. Then teacher have to have a learning initiative. If they do not know, let's do something. Let's find a way how to solve this problem better. And then it has to be inquisitive. We need to be open. Oh, how about this? How about that? And then the next step that will lead to experiment. Let's try this one. Like if you are a science teacher, I think it is something that what you do every day. This experiment works or not, right? But experiment is not limited to the science teaching as only, but it also in the way we solve problem. Let's try this approach. Let's try asking the question first to the students before we start. And then we have to be able to become like a comfort zone breaker. Especially with the situation right now, with the post-pandemic, where there are still a lot of uncertainties, we are not really in a situation where we really like 100% settled. Things might change anytime, but then what you need to be able to have is the attitude to become a comfort zone breaker. Break the norm, break the things that you don't normally do, and make sure that everybody might like a one time or two times like in a situation where they are not in a comfort zone. When people are not in their comfort zone, they usually become more creative. Then number three things to remember is opportunistic. It's we have to start with a problem. We need to make sure that it is everything what we do is a problem-based learning. Why do we have to search a problem? We don't have to search a problem, but we already have a lot of problems. With a problem, actually, we give purpose for our students. A lot of students, they got bored, including myself. I'm like one of the students when I was at school. I felt bored because we are not I'm not really know like I did not really know like why I learned what I learned. What is the purpose? What problem to solve? And we have to be optimistic to find a way to have a better future. We have to have a positive mindset, not just stop, oh well, this is too difficult. Well, every time we deal with the government, we always have this problem. Okay, yes, that's a lot of things, they are right, but then let's find a way how to do it, how to solve this problem. And when you put the students in a situation where they can face with the authentic problem, it makes learning more fun. It makes learning more purposeful than just like do whatever you want. Or giving the teacher prescription what needs to be done. And then the last part is about collaboration. We talk about social learning here. When we talk about design thinking, it means that we have to encourage students and whoever in the process of design thinking to collaborate. The skill of the future where people are ready to pay you more is like the communication skill. We have a problem with the communication. We are very shy. We are very afraid. Like when we have especially talk with somebody who are more senior, have like an older or some older or a higher position. I don't recommend that we have to be impolite. But what is taught to me for the last 2 decades is to be able to voice what I have in mind. Like if I don't agree, then I have to say I don't agree. But I have to be responsible why I don't agree. And then how actually I got to be able to work with other people, which means that I have to learn how to communicate my idea, which means that I have to say, well, I agree with you. You are doing a good job. But then you sometimes have to say, okay, I don't agree with you. Let's work together. Let's work it out. Not then, oh, I don't agree. Then the children cry and then, or maybe retract themselves. That's a lot of things happen. And I don't make a stereotype here, but we are not really taught, especially in my case, to learn all these skills, right? Like when I was young, and that's caused a lot of problems, especially when we have to like come when we have to face with a lot of uncertainty in the future. So now I'm going to go into quite the technical things. So if you have any question, please go ahead. Yeah, so number one is to understand and map. When we try to understand, like we have talked about the several aspects that we have to do here, and that's where we have to do research, right? We have to teach our students or whoever they are like to do research. I teach my children to do research when they are really, really young. They got into computer and do a proper research. I was amazed that the result that they come up with the research. Actually, I did a comparative study with the way like the product of education on my age, right? Like where we are trained to just receive whatever like the teacher said. And then my children, like I'm not saying that my children is the best, but it's just like it's a comparison. I give them, okay, this is a problem. Can you do a research in this amount of time, half an hour or 1 hour, and give me like some idea of what findings, what you have researched. And I was so amazed that they came up with a lot of interesting ideas. But that was not enough because, of course, like a time is limitation. Second, like they are quite young. But with the collaborative spirit, we can do more research. We can combine all these ideas. Uh, we can make this very rich. So this is just example. When we are doing research, we encourage them. We encourage them to talk to people who are not on their age. And I would say this is a problem. I'm facing this every day, right? Like I encourage people like the millennial, the Gen Z, right? Like can you talk to this? And no, I'm so afraid. Oh, well, they are not on my age. Well, I don't know what to say to these people. No, I mean, like, this is not how it works. I mean, like, if you want to be successful in the future or now near future, then the communication is really very important. So finding out the way how to communicate, how to ask questions, it's very important. Like with one of the, as you can see here, for Professor John Mason, one of the key person in APSCE, uh, we together had a lot of workshops in Indonesia, in Malaysia. It's basically we are trying to see with the teachers, there are the teachers, how we can actually train the teachers to ask questions. And can you believe that it was fun, but it took a while, like to make them asking questions. Like asking question is like when you talk about Einstein, Einstein, like I said, that I think 95%, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have the exact quote, but like if you want to solve a problem, basically spend 90 or 95% of the time is to ask questions, right? And then spend the rest of them like a 5% to 10% or to solve it. Like that's like because why by asking you a question, then you will come up with a lot of solutions. We tried that in one of the workshop, APSCE workshop, like a couple years back, and it was quite fun. If I say, for example, I give you 5 minutes, ask any question you want about this topic, right? Like so, I give like a close ended of a topic. Sometimes, and when we don't have the topics, when we want to ask like, what is happening with you? What kind of problem? Then I will just open it up like, okay, what kind of question you want to ask? And all the students, all the teacher will ask questions. And then based on the question that they have, like in 5 or 6 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, we could come up with like 100 questions. And I can't believe that. Like each person can have like a 3 to 5 questions. And then with that question, we map that question. And then like, okay, well, then we decide, okay, let's work on this one. Let's work on that one. And that's like a really fun experience, not just for the teacher, also for the students themselves, because they could engage in that process. And then this one is some of the things that you need to consider when you want to do a research. Identify the key user and stakeholder, define the context, build question, prepare for the field work, gather inspiration, and build insight. We are not going to go this into detail because I need a day to explain to you, but I'm happy. Like if any of you wants to do a workshop on this one, how to do a research within the classroom context or school, yeah, please let me know how. Let me know. I'm happy to help. So yeah, so this is about asking questions, right? If somebody asks me like, what is my job? My job is asking questions, right? So I wish I could have more time like to do this workshop with you, but we should probably try some next time. So then with all these questions, we define what would be like the topic we want to achieve. And then with those questions, we choose, we prioritize like the questions, and then we gonna start with the process of ideation. With the ideation, we come up with the approach called lightning demo. So we know all the topic we want to achieve, like we all agree, like this is the topic, and then this is what we want to focus on, and then we have the exercise for lightning demo. So with the lightning demo, we try to find any idea, any inspiration, not necessarily from the same field. So for example, if the question is like there are so many homeless people on the street, right? So my idea not necessarily have to be something to solve this problem. My idea can be something related to my Starbucks coffee. And then people will ask you like, why Starbucks coffee suddenly come up into the solution? Then I will tell them like what it is. So everybody will come up, all the students will come up with creative ideas, not creative ideas, creative inspiration that actually help them to think beyond the box, outside the box. And then like after we got a lot of ideas, we already have our goals, we are doing sketching. There are many ways of doing sketching. Sketching not necessarily that you have to be able to sketch, draw properly. You can make a note, you can make like a mind mapping, you can make a storyboard, you can make anything. Basically, this is a quite variety of sketching that each of the students will have the opportunity to do it themselves. So they don't work together with others, but they do it themselves. But during this process, we are going to give them a chance to express what idea they have in mind. And you will be amazed at how they are so creative. This is what we do with the crazy edge sketching. We have the critics of the current with the practice of design thinking because it takes forever. But with the crazy edge sketching, you only need 8 minutes to do the sketch, the sketching of the idea. And then you will come up with the next part, which is design. Which idea do you want to use? And this is like the time where we have to train our students to do leadership. They have to be in a situation where they feel that they are in control, they can make decision. They are like some people who make like a decision as a group, and some people who are chosen to make a decision for the team. And there are a lot of techniques that are like we can do separate workshop for each of these. And when we do the decision making, like we learn what is called as a design critic. Design critic is a skill that we teach our students to be able to communicate their ideas, their decision they have, or the ideas they have. They have to, okay, this is my idea. Why my idea is good? Why my idea can be used to solve the problem? And then they are also given an opportunity to accept what other people think, because sometimes like a lot of the students, they don't have the critical thinking, and for the other party where they have the critic, they need to be able to give the critic properly in a constructive manner. This is like for us it's maybe okay, well, this is everyday skill that we have, but can you imagine like if your student can do all these little steps, right? Like it will help them to become a leader of the future. All these skills are going to be needed no matter what kind of job they are going to have. Any job that we have right now, I would guarantee in the next couple of years it's going to be gone. There won't be any maybe teacher or something. Teacher might be called as a different names, right? But teachers, right, the role is still there, right? But the role would be like somehow like a mix intertwined with other roles as well. And then when we come up with a solution, right, we have to be able to think how we can actually use this solution into the context. What is going to happen? We have to think the solution, put it in the context, and how we can actually use this one for if I put it in the context. What can be like the problem if I solve this problem or if I use the solution? So this is like we envision what would be the future, what would the future look like? And then this is like one of the way we can do the storyboarding. I would call it storyboarding. You use storyboarding a lot when you are creating a movie or something like that. But we do storyboarding, and this tool and a lot of other tools has been used by a lot of schools as well here. So we use the storyboard that for this one. This is what it looks like. Okay, well, if I have this solution, what would be people think about that, right? Students feels it's so fun. Well, I can't think about that. It's oh, well, I feel I have a control, to change the world, to change the future. And then now, after we have all the solution and vision, what is going to happen, we're trying to make it happen. We're trying to see make it into a real. So we have to really think. We have to ask the student to plan. If I have this one, how much a budget I have to spend? What would be how is it's going to solve the problem or not? So it's a prototyping. We are not only creating an app or a system, but then we can create in the process. We creating something in whatever problem we are trying to achieve or trying to solve. It's basically, during this process, we teach the students to have an entrepreneurship skill. It is okay to fail fast, fail early, then fail later. We spend too much time on something, but we don't know whether it's going to work or not. And then when we do a prototyping, it is where we teach the students how to collaborate, right? How to put together different ideas and then make it into a good solution. So the next one is testing. We teach the students here to test their idea. How do we test them? Asking the right people, asking them, testing it to the users, and then get the feedback. It is very important to see that there are other people. They need to work for other people in the future, whether they are an entrepreneur or they work with other in a company. They are doing something not just for themselves but for other people. So the opportunity to test with other people, that's really give them a skill of the future. So when we do testing, right, this is what we do. Oh yes, this is going to work. This is not going to work, and it builds their reflective skill, right? This is helping them to ask questions again, asking questions, and so this is a really important of asking questions. And then we are also helping the student to follow up. It's a skill. All these things that I'm talking about, it's all the skill of the future of a real world. You don't have to wait until you got an MBA to do that. In Australia, we do this since the children maybe in year 3, year 1, year 2, they are taught to do all this process. Of course, the detail or the complexity is different, but I mean a problem solving is basically what we are teaching children to do. Yes, basically, this is the 5 elements of innovation. We try to put this together. We have to think of when we want to find a solution, better solution, we have to think how is it can be feasible for the technology, for the business, for the individual, for the environment, for the collective human, the community. Whatever the result from the solution that we have, we always when we make a decision, when we make a priority, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to consider for. Anyway, that is my presentation, and I hope that you will get a bit of what design thinking we have been doing, and then how can be implemented in your classroom. I give it back to Dr. Sakai. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Eunice, for that very insightful talk. Thank you so much. It has opened many perspectives, I think, in the way we channel our energy into education. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now encouraging you to put in your questions in the chat box. We already have 2 questions. Dr. Eunice, you might want to take them. Can you see the questions yourself? Yep, maybe you can take both the questions for now.
Okay. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to type here or just ask directly if that's possible. Yeah, how can we discover, empathize, and problem needs for students effectively for the classroom with show high teacher to students ratio? Yes, how we do it? Number one, we have to think that all the things that I described before, it was how do I say? It was the ideal situation, but we know in a lot of classes, even a lot of classes here in Australia, we got about 30 or sometimes I know in Indonesia maybe up to 50 as well, right, in one class. We cannot make sure that check one by one, but what we how it's the question is how we can discover empathize the problem needs of the students, right? So we do a lot of testing to the students actually, we do asking a lot of questions, a lot of questionnaire, so a lot of things that they can do it online, and then we can open this for a discussion. So with this question that we give the students online, then we can have a basic idea what is going on, and the students can do it maybe as a homework, or they can do it as a 1 or a 5 or 10 minutes activity of their own. And then based on that things okay, when we got depending how good we ask the question, and then we will ask the follow-up question by opening up for the forum for the students to ask questions. When we open up the forum for ask question, we can ask the students to work in a group. So for example, if you have 50, we can divide them into a 5. If it is more than 5, usually it's not very effective. A 3 is actually the best. But at 5 per group, then you can ask them, organize some activity inside that, so they can ask together the question they can discuss in a group. So that's what you usually do. So we get the data from a different perspective.
The next question.
Next question. Ati Suchidian Martha, can the design thinking process be done individually, not in a team? For example, in the thesis that must be done individually. Yes, you can. Well, you can. But I mean, especially in the thesis, right? It is you who is responsible for submitting the thesis. But my experience when I'm doing a thesis, when I do the testing, proofreading, I need other people. when I'm doing the experiments, I need other people as well. So that all the process that I would just mention, it's part of the design thinking process. Even though you can do things individually, at the end of the day, what you are doing in your thesis is trying to solve a problem. And that's you need other people. You can check your idea if your idea is correct or not. I hope it's answered your questions.
We have a
And
third
thank you
question.
for the question. What is the difference between engineering design and art design? I don't really know what it means by that, but with the art, I mean, like I'm not sure like how to answer this one. Then this one there's like a when I would say with the art design. So it is art and design is something that I usually like compare. When you do art, you create something for the visual appealing, for something that is like not necessarily solving a problem. But then when you are doing a design, you are trying to solve a problem, right? So my understanding, art and design is like a two things, like art and design. That's how what I would say it. Like and then the engineering design, suppose that it's like you design and then you are using engineering as the solution for your design. Not sure if I would answer your question, but I think that's what I would address like a yeah. All right. I think all the question has been answered.
Yeah, all the questions have been answered. Is there any last minute questions coming in? Because we have passed the time, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a last call for questions, if not, we will slowly wrap this session up. So I think Dr. Yunus, looks like there's no questions coming in. But I must say it's a very interesting session. I myself incorporate design thinking into my subjects. And one thing that I must admit is it's quite difficult to get youngsters, especially in this part of the world in Malaysia, to speak up. Communication is a little bit slow because they are shy, because the lack of confidence. Hence, to problem solve might be a little bit more difficult. It's a good concept. I'm slowly incorporating it into my teaching, and I can see a difference than what it was when I first started teaching and what it is now, because we are more human-centered, am I right, in this approach. So we're always putting people ahead of what we think we need to do. So thanks for opening our eyes to this concept. As you mentioned, it's not a new concept, started in 1969. But now I think it's taking the world by storm, thanks to you and your teammates who are doing a fine job. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Dr. Yunus, for the insightful sharing. And I'm sure we have a clear idea now and a new idea of thinking that is taking the world by storm. So ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this informative and eye-opening session. Thank you to our speaker, and thank you, dear participants, for making time to be with us. Wishing you a wonderful day. But I believe we're going to share some slides now. Upcoming events that's coming up by APSCE webinar series, Virtual Reality and Language Education, Research Trend and Teaching Practice on 15 October, Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. by Prof. Chun Peng Zheng, Beijing University of Post and Telecommunications. So big thank you once again, Dr. Yunus Sari, for taking the time to be with us. And thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Sakari. Thank you, everyone. I don't know how, but please feel free to reach me out on LinkedIn if there is any further question, because this is like a long discussion. Thank you.
Yes, please reach out to Dr. Yunus through LinkedIn. I will definitely do that Dr. Eunice, thank you so much once again. Have a good day, everyone. Take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.